Hello, welcome to Pilates for Life. Today we're going to talk about the basics of Pilates. These are basic principles that you can use not just with Pilates, but with any workout, whether bicycling, swimming, CrossFit, weightlifting, you name it. If you apply the basic principles of Pilates to anything you do, you will gain core, control, and strength. So let's begin. Our number one principle is our breathing. We inhale through the nose and exhale through pursed lips. Then we inhale, funneling that air into the rib cage, widening, and then exhale, close it in. So I really want to see those ribs widen. And exhale. My exhale, I want to be forced. That's why we say pursed lips. I imagine there's a candle across the room that I need to blow out. With that forced exhale, you engage abdominally. You want to think of pulling that air out from the base up to release it. One more time. Inhale and exhale. Very good. The second basic principle in Pilates is the pelvis placement and lifting of the pelvic floor. So let's start with the lifting of the pelvic floor. What you want to think about is in the base of the pelvis, there are multiple small muscles that are like a sling that hold everything in and up. You can think of cutting off the stream of urine in that gentle lift. Another way to think of it is tucking your navel in just an inch and then lifting up a couple inches. You'll feel that lift in the base of the pelvis. What this does is by lifting those muscles, it engages the transverse abdominis. That is your most internal abdominal muscle that wraps with horizontal fibers like a girdle. That is the muscles we want to engage to give us that nice flat tummy, as well as support the spine. So we want to think of that pelvic floor lifting with each exhale. So as we inhale, let's go back to our breathing, widen the ribs. And on your exhale, think of lifting that pelvic floor, navel under the rib cage. Inhale to widen. And exhale, pelvic floor lifts. Think of that gentle lift of the navel in and up to help push that air out. Again, inhale. Feel that exhale. Next, we're going to think of the pelvis placement. Now, with the pelvis placement, we like to think of neutral pelvis with most everything we do. Unless our legs are unsupported, lifted in what we call tabletop, then we want to be imprinted. So here's where your neutral pelvis is. Let's start from a standing position. So I'm going to stand, and here I want to think of hip bones and pubic bone, 3 points in the same plane vertically. Okay, so that means my pelvis is not tipped forward, as some people will have, or is not tipped back, as some would. That is the position we want to hold, whether we're bicycling, whether we're walking down the street. We want to hold that neutral pelvis. That way our legs are doing the work of walking and we're not just slumping and meandering along. Holding that neutral pelvis will give us that nice neutral spine. So here we're going to talk about that neutral to imprinted pelvis. If you can see my pelvis here, the hip bones and pubic bone are in that same plane horizontally. I have a little space under my lower back. Everyone will look differently because we're all made differently here. All right? So we want to think of that neutral pelvis. If you feel a strain in the back, then that mean that you're overlifting and have to release it down a little bit. So it may look like the pubic bone's a little bit higher than the hip bones. Now to get yourself to an imprint, we're going to pull your hips up towards the ribs as we exhale. So I'm pulling. Inhale, releasing back. Exhale, pulling. and release back. One common mistake here is people want to use the legs to push back in that pelvis. You don't want to engage those legs whatsoever. They are totally relaxed. Inhale, exhale, just your abs pulling. Inhale back to neutral and exhale. Now, to ensure we're not using the legs, we're going to hold that imprint. Lift one leg up and then lift the other. We only do one at a time so that we don't strain and arch that back. Inhale, gently release that pelvis, that little bit of space under the lower back. Now exhale, navel in and up. Inhale back to your neutral and exhale, pull. Inhale to your neutral and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Holding here, we're going to release one foot down and then the other, and then you may release back to neutral. If we were to just lift the legs without going to that neutral, what happens is the back arches a little bit more, and this is where you have chance of injuring the spine. So we always want to control with the abs first before moving the legs. Our third basic principle is our rib cage, and you can see mine sticks up just a little bit here. We want to remember that transverse abdominis, those most inner abdominal muscles, have fibers that run horizontally. They basically connect from the rib cage all the way down to the pelvis. So this is like a big brace that holds everything in and supports your spine. With that, we want to think of those ribs not popping up. If I'm just popping those ribs up, that means those abs are not engaged. So we want to think of holding down a bit. Again, back to our inhale, widening to the side, not arching up. Exhale, we're going to pull to that imprint. Notice how the ribs kind of melt down with it. Inhale, back to your neutral. Let's just do that one more time. Exhale. Ribs are melting down. Good. We're going to keep the pelvis neutral here. We're not going to go into that imprint, but we're going to reach the arms up. And there are times when we have the arms overhead. Now, if I were to just let the arms relax, do you see what happened to my ribs? They really pop up here. So I may not be able to just let the arms go. I have to keep them up just a bit in order to keep those ribs down. So we don't want to just relax. That tells me those abs are not tight. So I'm going to inhale. On my exhale, slide those ribs down, and now I'm engaged and tight. You can feel the difference. This takes some practice. The fourth basic principle is our shoulders. Our shoulder blades have 16 muscles that attach, not really a big bony attachment to those shoulder blades. All of this kind of moves together. When we reach for something, a lot of times the shoulder goes out with it. We want to try to keep that back. Pilates is all about control. Shoulders are very important to keep their place when we're controlling other things. So we don't want to lift up. We don't want to over depress. We don't want to reach forward too much. And we don't want to overly retract or pull back on those shoulders. So we're going to do a little work here to get those shoulder blades moving and feeling that control. I'm going to turn this way so you can see my shoulder blades here. I'm going to reach my hands forward. You can do this from lying on the mat, and we will in just a moment. But we're going to feel reaching those shoulder blades to press into the back of the rib cage. And then I'm going to draw them back. Seeing just those shoulder blades move and back. Now, a lot of times we think about overly reaching, and that's not what I'm doing. I want you to just feel those shoulder blades pressing into that rib cage and then pulling back. We're isolating specific muscles to do so, and then pull back. Now, just keep watching those shoulder blades. I'm going to hold them in that neutral position, so I'm not overly reaching or pulling back, but I want to lift one arm up as one comes down. And inhale, exhale, change. Inhale, exhale, change. We call these scissors. Inhale and exhale, change. I'm trying to do all of that without, see how the shoulders could go up and down if I were really reaching. So I'm really trying to control the movement through those shoulder blades. Notice that neutral pelvis. And we're going to think of reaching up just a bit. I'm just trying to press those shoulder blades into the back of the rib cage. And then I'm going to draw them back. Reaching up and pull back. Let's just do one more since we've already done those sitting up, and pull back. Now remember those scissors we did. We're still maintaining that neutral pelvis. We're going to bring one arm overhead as one comes down. Remember talking about the rib cage staying down? We're going to engage it all together. Exhale to reach. Inhale and exhale. Keeping your pelvis neutral. We're layering on many things to be thinking about here. I'm going to keep guiding you through it, so just listen. Inhale and exhale. That pelvic floor is lifting. That pelvis is neutral. Ribs are down and shoulders are neutral. Bring them up. Let's bring both arms overhead, ribs pulling down, and we're going to circle around. Palms face each other as you come up and over, and then they face the ceiling to come around. One more like that. Inhale up, ribs pulling down, and exhale. So you'll feel your abs engaging even here, guys. Inhale, circle those arms out, palms facing the ceiling, and exhale, pull down. Inhale out, and exhale, pull down. Inhale out, and exhale, pull down. Good. Now our last basic principle is the head and neck placement. Very, very important. A lot of people have neck issues. We don't want to increase any tension on that neck whatsoever. So we want to make sure we are keeping the optimal position of the head. The cervical area or neck, those vertebrae naturally have a bit of an anterior curve or curve forward. The head should be tall on top of those cervical vertebrae. You don't want to feel as if those eyes are always down. You don't want to be up. We don't want the head pushing forward too far, or we don't want it overly flat. So from lying down, we want to feel that the head is lifted just enough to support the neck. Now I could go without this pad. It just takes me back just a little bit more, and I feel my eyes going up slightly. So I feel like I have to kind of stretch a little more. So I'm just going to add one little pad, and now I feel like my eyes are directly up at the ceiling and holding in a nice neutral neck. Anytime we're going to engage before rounding up, we would lengthen the back of the neck. That is not lifting the head. It is not pulling the chin to the chest, but I like to think of drawing my eyes down towards my knees just a bit. I'm going to think of creating space in the vertebrae of the neck. So I'm going to open those vertebrae to draw the eyes down just a bit. Inhale and exhale. Relaxing everything else, keeping those ribs down, neutral pelvis. Exhale, draw those eyes towards the knees. Inhale and exhale, draw the eyes towards the knees. So anytime we're preparing to lift the upper body or engage in some way, we want to keep that neck long, those eyes towards the knees, just gently, not jamming down and not overly lifting. Okay, so we're ready to put it all together. We're going to go into what we call ab prep. This is what I do at the beginning of a lot of workouts. So we are thinking of our breathing, our pelvis placement, rib cage, shoulders, and our neck placement. So what we want to do first is we're going to inhale and lengthen the back of the neck. Then as I exhale from the abs, pelvic floor lifts, start the exhale and pull head, neck, and shoulders up. My arms are just hovering. I'm going to stay as I inhale and exhale, round back down. Eyes staying at the knees as long as possible to keep that long neck. If you don't keep the long neck, you're going to feel tension in your neck. So here we go again. Lengthen the neck on the inhale. Exhale, start blowing that candle to round. Hold it on your inhale. And exhale, round it down. Eyes staying at the knees and then releasing back. So I'm going to do it without talking now so I can do it properly. One more. All right, so a common mistake in that is, I'm going to show you some mistakes. Here, I didn't draw the eyes to the knees. See the tension in the neck? Doesn't feel good. Another common mistake. See the shoulder placement? I'm reaching with my arms, not pulling with the abs. Here's where the shoulders should be. They're going to round gently, but not overly pulling. Inhale. Another thing that happens quite often as we exhale, see how my pelvis rolled back. There's no problem in doing that, especially for a beginner. But as you work yourself up, we want to be able to hold that pelvis in that neutral. As you strengthen the abs, that neutral should be able to be held. So one more time with the proper positioning. Lengthen the neck, shoulders staying down. I want to always start the exhale before the move. Sliding the ribs to the hips, keeping the pelvis neutral. Inhale and exhale, eyes at the knees, all the way down. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll use these basic Pilates principles in the videos that we are posting on YouTube, as well as your everyday activities, to gain more control from your core and get more out of your workouts.